maybe they do if they read my stuff. But I used to, when I first did Ground Zero, I called it cult radio. And the reason why is because I came up with this idea about a guy who is a DJ who hears voices when his radio station shuts down, and he wants to tell the entire world that if they turn down if they were just not broadcast anything over their transmitters, that the Earth would go quiet and aliens would arrive, and because they would go, what the hell happened to this planet? They're not noisy anymore. Well, I was, when I did that, it was basically a reverse idea of what Edison was talking about, because Edison had said that if with radio appropriated and telephone appropriated and all these things that he was basically stealing from other inventors, Tesla's stuff, and electrocuting elephants and having cats boxing and all kinds of stupid things. He had come up with the idea that if you had enough power and enough light and enough radiated power, that you could punch a hole into the ionosphere and actually contact the dead. And that certain things could get through, and now HAARP is doing that all the time.
I was just about to say
they're heating. They're that's Tesla technology, but of course Edison had the same idea. But while we're doing it to heat up the atmosphere, Edison wanted to do it by some simple means of taking the radio spectrum and smearing it into the sky, and then broadcasting it through little boxes and getting the dead to speak to us from the other side, or some entity that's out there somewhere. Well, there was I was reading about these types of technologies that were patterned after Edison's idea, and one is called Frank's box. And Frank's box was a radio that was manipulated in order to create the same effect of white noise and smear barrage. And a friend of mine, Jonathan Burgess, who is a handyman idea guy, I said to him, I wish there was a way that I could make a box and I wouldn't have to go and buy one, because they don't sell them really. And I said, I'd like to make a box. And so we did some searching. We found that there was this Radio Shack radio. It's very rare because this exists. It's a small white radio. It's a digital radio. If you go in and you clip a transistor in it or something, it causes the dial not to stop on a radio station. It just smears through it back and forth really fast. So we're getting split second radio scanning. And so I said to him, so this creates the white noise barrage effect. So if we were to take this and set it in a room with a speaker and call out, the spirits could manipulate that, the theory that Edison had. They can manipulate those frequencies to speak to us, correct? And we're thinking, yeah, okay, so let's give it a shot. So we tried it, and we spoke out to the ether, and we said, is there anybody out there? Is there anybody listening to us? And then we listened back on the computer, and sure enough, EVPs started emerging out of the static. So we were hearing ghost voices, and there were voices that could not be broadcast at all, because and they were answering our questions. Is there anybody out there? Yes, I'm here. And this isn't, it was just amazing. And then there was one where I got a recording of, I said, is there anybody out there, and can they speak to us? And some guy replied, the people out there can't hear that, or the people out there can't hear us. And so I was going, okay, this is something that is just remarkable. And I did a show, and I don't know if zeropointradio.com would rerun it, because it would show. I did a show with Jonathan in my own home where we were doing the experiment live on the air. And I said to him, I think maybe I had said to him, I says, it's too bad I'm not on a transmitter somewhere where I could use thousands of watts of power to broadcast this strange static and white noise and barrage through the air, and that maybe every single radio within the range of this broadcast could pick up a ghost voice, call me, and tell me they're hearing the ghost voices. So that was sitting in the back of my mind for a long time. Well, what had happened is that I was thinking about it. We didn't have a radio that had been fixed, because I gave one to my girlfriend's son, because he wanted a radio to listen to, and she had one. And so they've got two ghost radios and didn't even realize it. But I had Jonathan make another one, and I had talked with Mike Tellinger about frequencies that were used during 250,000 years ago with the inhabitants of South Africa. And he was talking about how they were taking the same type of concept and using it to create light and using it to create electricity. And he said, so your concept of using the same type of frequencies of the earth to shoot up into the atmosphere at 100,000 watts and bring it back down to every radio could produce a voice or produce some sort of sound or something where people will all be able to hear different things. He says, you ought to give it a shot. And so I said, okay. So we got the radio. David John Oates just happened to be in town. And Reed McClintock, who is an illusionist, hypnotist, more hypnosis than anything else. He's a great magician as well. I wanted him to sit in on it because what he's going to do is he's going to be there to get us in the mindset to listen and to try and interpret. I'm going to be there to show I'm going to be demonstrating. Gosh, if I can talk, I'm going to be demonstrating how this worked before with some of the results that we had last year. And Jonathan's going to be there to talk about what he did. And then at midnight, when they say the veil is at its thinnest, we're going to shoot that sound into the sky through that transmitter for a few minutes, just so it can be coming through. We're going to ask people to call out to their radios or turn up their radios or do whatever they need to do and pay attention to hear if they hear anything coming through. And if they hear anything, then we want them to call us and tell us.
Now, is this just the terrestrial signals that you're talking about from 0 Point Radio?
Well, the situation with 0 Point Radio is this. We are broadcasting from KUFO at 100,000 watts. That hugs the Earth because FM signals are line of sight. So anyone within line of sight of KUFO will get the signal and they will hear it and they can interpret it as ghost voices if they hear any. 0 Point Radio now has RF Burns, who runs 0 Point Radio, had contacted me. And he said to me, we have a transmitter. This is how you're live on AM. We have a transmitter in Casper, Wyoming. That transmitter is only 5 watts right now, but we can jack it to 5 to 50,000, at least for while you're doing the signal, and bring it back down again. That's a combined frequency level of 150,000 watts, and that's more than HARP. Okay, so we're going to have 150,000 watts combined. One will be a signal that will hug the Earth, and one will be a signal that will shoot around everywhere and maybe get into skip, which may wind up somewhere else on the planet.
Skip, what's that?
There's a phenomenon when they're using AM radios. Sometimes AM radios can be picked up for miles. In fact, here in Portland, you can get KSL radio in Salt Lake City because an AM signal is very powerful, and if it's 50,000 watts, it takes up into the atmosphere, and it goes forever. It doesn't go the curvature of the Earth. It bounces around forever. So we may wind up with a broadcast of that signal at the North Pole, or as far south as Mexico, or wherever. Plus, we have online, which we're going to be simulcasting that online. We just got word that Fate Radio, which is based on Fate magazine, an additional 40,000 possible listeners to this that are going to be able to contact those people and tell them to listen to their radios or listen to their computers. And with the additional power that is going to be provided by this transmitter in Casper, Wyoming, they're calling it Operation Friendly Ghost. So we have the Edison Enigma.
And I had seen that name, but it just now finally dawned on me.
Yeah, it's in Casper, Wyoming. So they're calling it Operation Friendly Ghost. We'll be contacting ghosts in Casper, Wyoming, trying to contact ghosts in Portland, Oregon, and hopefully around the entire world where people are going to hear something within the whole barrage of sound and static using a white noise frequency loop to try and contact the dead, and using 175,000 watts of power to do so, or 150,000 watts of power.
And this is live on the radio Sunday
night Halloween. It's going to be a big event. We want everybody to spread the word. Tune into 0pointradio.com. It'll be 10 p.m. It's midnight Eastern time, and then figure it out. It's actually 10 p.m. Pacific time. So
yeah, so that's 1 o'clock Eastern.
Oh, it's 1 o'clock Eastern.
So that's, so it'll be 1 a.m. Eastern. Scary night for the East Coast.
Yes, it is, because and people are saying, well, it's not midnight in my area where you're going to be doing this. It's going to be 3 a.m. in New York when we're doing it. 3 a.m. is the witching hour. So between midnight and 3 is that time period where the veil's thinnest, because 3 a.m. used to be midnight in some cultures. So we're going from midnight to midnight pretty much. So that whole time, midnight to 3, that whole 3-hour period, the differential is going to be, it doesn't matter because it's going to go in the right time.